All right, good evening. Good evening. I am super excited. I want to give everybody a few minutes, make sure that you guys can hear me. So I'm going to check a few things before we get started. Make sure that we are live. Okay, let's see. Okay, just 1 second. Let's 1 minute. Okay. Okay, great. I'm going to give it a few seconds and we're going to go ahead and get started because I definitely do value your time and definitely value those of you who, do show up on time because I know there's so many other places that you could be. So whether you are watching this live or catching the replay, if you can do me a favor, just put in the comment box that you can hear me because I definitely want to respect your time and go ahead and get started right away. Okay. I think we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I was trying to watch it on my other screen to make sure, but it's not allowing me to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and it looks like everything on my end looks great. So first of all, if you didn't get the email to download the free, not free, but not necessarily free, but the worksheet that goes along with this webinar, I'm going to drop the link to that in the comments. You don't need it right now, but you'll definitely need it towards the end, or if you're watching a replay so you can follow along. Okay. Okay, so good evening and welcome to tonight's webinar, over Understanding and Overcoming Fatherlessness. This is your host, LaKeisha Hankins, and whether you're watching this live or catching the replay, I thank you for allowing me in your space, right? Because there's so many places that you could be tonight or somewhere else that you could be spending your time. But the fact that you showed up to tonight's webinar or to watch this replay tells me that, there's something of interest here for you, and that you're possibly a fatherless daughter, or you're raising a fatherless daughter, or you know someone who is a fatherless daughter. And with Father's Day coming up around the corner, I wanted to, put this presentation together because I know so many women struggle with this day or dread this day as it comes, right? Because maybe their father wasn't in the picture, or maybe he's passed away for whatever reason. They don't have that relationship with their biological father. And for me, I'm going to go ahead and switch it to my slides and go ahead and get started okay, so let me share my screen. Change. One second. Okay, so here's our worksheet. I don't know, always does something really funky when I start doing that. So do that. All right, great. So let's go ahead and get started. Tonight's topic is all about understanding and overcoming fatherless. So if you haven't already, you want to make sure you definitely did receive tonight's download. Make sure you're in a place where you can be able to receive this information. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so what we're going to cover tonight, we're going to cover what the fatherless wound is and why you must heal it, identify the patterns that are showing up in your life that have prevented you from achieving success in your life, and we're going to talk about how to rewrite a new narrative for your life and unleash so that you can unleash your best life. So those of you who have been following me, you know that my passion is all about unleashing your best life, whether that be business, just really just empowering women and teens to go after their dreams. So those are the three areas that I want to discuss with you tonight. Okay, so moving forward. So just a little bit before we get started, who I am. For those of you, this may be your first time attending one of my webinars or one of my trainings. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is LaKeisha Hankins. I'm not one who, cares for titles, but I do believe in growing, learning, and personal development. I'm a passion strategist, author, certified life repositioning coach, and a fatherless daughter advocate. Okay, and my passion, as I stated, is working with teen mothers and fatherless daughters and women to unleash their truth so they can unlock success. So just a little bit about my story and, what brings us to tonight's webinar and why I'm pursuing this more so and bringing it to the forefront. And for years, I didn't realize that I was a fatherless daughter or that I even had any daddy issues. I was a strong, ambitious, and, I'm really a success-driven woman. And I was raised by my mother and my stepfather. And, I grew up where my biological father was kind of like in and out of my life. And I know part of that had to do, with my mother. For at some point, he didn't know that I was his child. So I never blamed him. But the moment where he knew that I was his own flesh and blood, he had a responsibility to step up and be a father. But like I said, he was in and out of my life. And even though it irritated me, I never had any hard feelings against him because I figured part of it may have, like I said, to do with my mother. And I grew up in a home where we didn't talk about those type of issues. So I learned to be okay. And, I learned to be strong and make the best out of any situation. And it wasn't until I attended an event in hopes to have a breakthrough in my business, right? So I went to this event for one thing, to have a breakthrough in my business. And this event was about fatherlessness, kind of like what we're talking about tonight and the impact that it has on your life. And at that event, I started to connect some of my limiting beliefs and my past life events to my fatherlessness, right? I realized I was struggling in my life and in business because of the non-existent relationship with my biological father, which led me to having a lack of identity. So, and this lack of identity stemmed from two life-changing events. For me, it was the being a fatherless daughter. And at the age of 15, I became a teen mom. I was rebellious and I was searching and looking for love in all the wrong places. And it was then that I made a decision at this event, and I decided it was time to confront and make peace with my past. And in doing so, I was unable to lock my success and embrace this journey of being able to unleash my best life. And that's what I want for you. I want you to know that your past, regardless of whatever has happened in your past, whatever action steps you have taken, whatever you've experienced, right? That it doesn't define you, nor does it shape your future. Your fatherlessness does not shape your future. Anything that you've done in the past. So that's what this is all about. And my why I do what it is that I do is for my girls. I'm a wife, a mother. I have four beautiful girls, and they are my why. They are my reason that I go so hard. because I believe, we're always empowering our kids and telling our kids to go after their dreams. Well, at least I do, and you should. You should speak life into your kids, speak into their future. And what better way to show them to go after your dreams by doing it myself, by letting them see me live and in color, going after my dreams. Okay, so that is why I, really go, I'm living this life on purpose and really empowering other teens and other daughters, because I always wanted a big sister. And, truth be told, I was able to meet my big sister last year. So my father has, of course, other kids. So I have other sisters and brothers out there, and I was able to reconnect last year with my older sister, and I always wanted this big sister. So, that's one of the things that definitely has come out of this as I've embarked on this journey to healing my own fatherless wounds, right? So super excited. So again, it's all about understanding and overcoming fatherless. So let's go ahead and get started. So what is a fatherless daughter, or are you a fatherless daughter? A fatherless daughter woman is a female who grew up with an absent, unattached, or unavailable father. Now, we all have a biological father, but when the term fatherless is used, we define it as, it means that father figure is just not emotionally or physically present in that daughter's life. And such type of absences in a girl's life may have major consequences of varying kinds as she becomes a woman, since early years of life does require some type of positive paternal role model, right? So that paternal father figure, that male role model is needed there. And it can't be replaced. There's not a void that can be replaced. Like, yes, you might have maybe a stepfather in the picture, or maybe a older brother or uncle, a grandfather, uncles. They might be in a picture, but they can't replace that void or that necessarily that role of your father. They can be a great role model for you, but there's a missing piece there. And I want to know, what would you describe your father? Would you describe your biological father as unattached, unavailable, or absent, and why? And I want you to put that in the comments for me. Okay. And like I said, if you're watching a replay, I'll actually go back to and look at the comments from the replay. So I want to know, just from those of you who have registered for this call or catching a replay, how would you describe your father? Is he unattached, unavailable, or absent? And tell me why. Okay. So what is the fatherless wound and why we must tell it is one of the first things that I said I was going to go over tonight. So the little girl who does not have a relationship with her father, if she sees rejection or emotional coldness or withdrawal from him, her sense of self-worth becomes tainted. If he simply is not available or doesn't provide for her needs, her self-confidence, it becomes warped or non-existent. And she may find herself lacking love and feel unsafe, insecure, or even unwanted. And this begins that fatherless wound. This begins the making of a fatherless daughter. So this is how the fatherless wound is created. Okay, so when a girl, like I said, she feels that she is not loved, doesn't feel safe, secure, protected, she feels that she's not wanted, that's where that wound begins. Okay, and what we call the making of a fatherless daughter. The effects of an absent, unattached, or unavailable father can have so many negative consequences on the female's life, especially as she approaches adolescence and adulthood. So a girl, she learns to love herself through the love she sees reflected back to her in her father's eyes. And this is how she develops her self-confidence and as well as her self-esteem. And this is how she, this is where you show her how to develop, a healthy and a positive expression of what love feels like, what love looks like. So that's where that begins. And, we get our sense of identity from our father, that sense of self-confidence from our father, that safety, that security, and, feeling protected and loved comes from our father. So why you must heal the father wound, okay? So girls who grow up without a father or have little connection with their father usually have difficulties sustaining healthy relationships with men. They tend to suffer from issues such as abandonment, low self-esteem, sexual promiscuity, trust, and they depict men in a certain way. Now, the impact on an absent, unattached, or unavailable father on his adult daughter life is critical when it comes to how she sees herself and how she views the world. Okay, so this is so important. This definitely shows up in our relationships. It shows up on the job, all these different places. It shows up, how we handle our money, and then really, how we're dealing with relationships with the opposite sex. This is where those trust issues, show up, or us not being able to communicate our feelings to them, or sometimes even feeling like we or need them, or we become clingy, or we don't want to be rejected, all those different things. So I wanted to talk about some of the symptoms of a fatherless daughter. And if you're following me on Facebook as well, I posted and shared some of these the other day. But some of those symptoms are, rage and, anger, feelings of rejection and abandonment, overdriven by success. And that was me definitely being overdriven by success, right? And that comes from the whole feeling like you're not enough, or feeling like you had to make up your wrongs. With me being a teen mom at the age of 16, I was overdriven by success because I was, destined or on this mission to prove to other people that, hey, I can do this. I'm going to be successful regardless of, what society says. I'm not dropping out of school. I'm going to college and all these different things. But I found myself constantly chasing success. And you feel like, and sometimes when a woman is overdriven by success and she doesn't know her value and she lacks that confidence, she's forever taking training courses, forever working on herself, developing, because there's this limiting belief that she's not enough. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And if you have any questions, do me a favor, just drop your questions in there. I'll make sure that I get to your questions. And then also, again, I just want to make sure you guys can still hear me because I did switch my headphones. Okay, so again, she becomes overdriven by success. She has trust and commitment issues. She may feel independent. Sometimes it's hard for her to depend on other people, especially men, because of the trust and commitment issues. She has challenges with shame, sex, and intimacy, possibly even low self-image and self-esteem. And when, I talk about self-esteem, a lot of times, women be like, no, my self-esteem is fine. Self-esteem is not going to get your hair and your nails done. It's about value. It's about seeing that value within yourself and taking care of yourself and knowing who you are and whose you are. Okay. And like I said, difficulty in sustaining healthy and lasting relationships are also some of the symptoms of a fatherless daughter. Now, the core problem is that, like I said earlier, that we receive our identity through our paternal relationships and connections. And what's more is when this neglect happens to us, and happens in the female's life, we spend our whole entire life, if we don't acknowledge it or become aware of it, that we spend our life trying to discover ourselves, searching for love through paths that do not serve us. Like I said, I was definitely looking for love in all the wrong places, didn't know what love looked like. And then also sometimes fatherless daughters, they end up marrying young. Okay, so, and those are some of the other things. So like I said, yet our pain will never heal until we heal our misplaced sense of identity. And it's knowing who you are. knowing who you are outside of your, I'm not talking about your job. I'm not talking about, the titles of being a wife or being a mom or all those, none of those things, right? What's your sense of identity? Who are you? Once you remove that mask, and once you remove those titles, who are you? Okay, so that is so important, that you don't lose your sense of identity by trying to be everything to everyone else. It's important that you discover who you are. And I wanted to talk about, some of the patterns of a fatherless daughter. Now, we just define pattern as a way of being in the world and seeing the world. A pattern is also a cage. So if you can just imagine this, a pattern is a cage which imprisons us and locks us into interacting in a way that does not serve us, right? So because of this misplaced sense of identity, those feelings of rejection are feeling unloved and unlovable. Many fatherless daughters view themselves inaccurately, right? Their perception of themselves are distorted, are unchallenged, because they have these beliefs within their subconscious mind. Okay, so we all hold a self-image that makes us believe that we are somehow unloved or unlovable. And that self-image controls how we think. It also controls what we say, what we do. Our lives will never be different from what our self-image says that we are, right? So how do you see yourself? Because how you see yourself is how you show up in the world. And whether this, these patterns, the patterns are like a layered onion, right? And they must be pulled back. There's layer after layer. And like I said, if we don't feel that we are, feel and believe that we are lovable, we aren't able to obtain or maintain a loving relationship. Because when someone comes into your life and it's, you're saying it's something that you want, what happens is you end up pushing it away because you don't know what love feels like, or either it's the whole fear of being hurt, or the whole fear of letting those guards down and trusting someone with your emotions, and that they are going to be there for the long run to, trust and commit. So again, if we don't think that we're lovable, we can't maintain a loving relationship, or we end up settling in relationships that do not serve us. And if we don't feel that we deserve to have money or abundance, we're not able to get it or keep it once we do get it. And that's one of the things that I struggled with. Definitely, so I could get the money, but for me, it was hard to maintain it. Or once I got it, before, like, we had this clothing business and the business was doing really, really good, until the economy went bad. And then it was hard for me to start my business over again. It was hard for me, now I'm back working, outside the home. But when I had an opportunity where I was just doing my coaching full time, it was really hard for me to fathom. I was afraid of success. I was afraid that, okay, I would obtain the money, but I wouldn't be able to keep it up month after month after month. So I would, self-sabotage my own success. And that's some of the things that we do. If we don't feel that we deserve the money or deserve abundance in our life, you won't be able to get it. You push it further and further away, or once you get it, like I said, you can't keep it. And the only way to truly stop these patterns from acting out their realities is to release the pain contained in each one of those onions. Because like I said, it's like a layer of onion. And if the pain isn't released or healed, the patterns continue to act in ways that draw onto us and, reinforce those realities. Those limiting beliefs now become your reality, and that old pain keeps living on. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. If you guys, like I said, if any questions, definitely post your comments below, and I hope you're getting something out of this, that this is making sense to you, because it's so important. Because there's so many women also, like I said, that don't even realize that they're a fatherless daughter. Like for me, because my biological father was in the picture, I was like, I'm good. I'm okay with my father, not being there. I'm okay with not having a relationship with him. And once I started journaling and doing the work, I realized I wasn't okay. That's this guard, this shield that I put up because I had to learn to be strong and independent, not only for myself, but because like I said, my first child, I was a teen mom. So I learned to be okay and act like those things didn't matter because I didn't have time to feel the pain. So I learned to suppress the pain. And it wasn't until, 2 years ago, like I said, that I attended an event and started working with my coach where I realized that this was still showing up in my life. So, like I said, your fatherless impacts many areas of your life, especially how we deal with men and how we deal with our money. And those are the two, things that women said that they want. They want love, and they want, they want to be able to create a life of abundance, be able to have success. But in order to do that, the healing must take place. So again, some of the ways that it shows up in our life, women become overachievers and driven by success. People possibly see you as a go-getter, but you don't see yourself as good enough. And that was definitely myself. I could definitely relate to that one so much. And if you can relate to any of these, let me know. And then also, if you haven't, on my website, I have this fatherless daughter quiz that was put together by my mentor. Like I said, there's been so much research and case studies done on the symptoms and behaviors of a fatherless daughter. So she actually, did the work, to put this quiz together. And it's very interesting what it comes up based off of the questions that you ask, that are asked. Okay, so again, the second one is possibly unrealistic expectations from others, and you don't allow them to make mistakes. So if someone does happen to make a mistake, you take it personally, right? Or you have this unrealistic expectation of what a man is supposed to be in your life. So those different things, like I say, they show up. Or if you do give someone something to do and they don't do it correctly, you take it personally. You have, because you're strong, you're independent, and it's you know what, I might as well have done it myself. Seeking approval or don't believe that you're enough. And like I said, independent, don't depend on anyone but yourself, definitely for safety and security. And that was one of the hardest things for me to do, even in my marriage. Like, it was so hard for me to let my husband lead, to let him be in charge, or let him take care of, some of the things that he should have taken care of, or that he could possibly take care of, because I had a hard time depending on anyone. And, even still to this day, our finances, our accounts are separate. And a lot of it has to do with, my past, how I was raised, and, these different beliefs and all these different things that show up in my life. Because I have to make sure that I feel safe and I feel secure. Like, I feel like I have to be in charge. So that's something, like, for me, that I still work with on, especially in relationships, is having to feel like I don't want to feel like I have to be in charge. So slowly letting some of that stuff go. And now, of course, it's gotten to the point where he's used to me being in charge and like, oh, you take care of it. So now I try to push stuff off and like, hey, you take care of this. But, again, it's one of those things that I'm working through in my life. And I know that it shows up, and a lot of it has to do with my past. All right. So next slide, moving forward. Hope you guys are getting something out of this again. So again, this is one of my first webinars that I've done addressing this whole topic of fatherless daughters since I've gotten my certification. And like I mentioned, if you guys have been following me, it's one of those ones, it took me a minute to step out here and address the topic, because it was the fear of what my biological father would think, the fear of what my other family members on that side would think. It was the fear of what my mother would say as well, how she would feel if I, address this, because again, some of the reasons why he wasn't there in the picture had to do with her. But I had to realize that it wasn't necessarily about them. I needed to do this for my own healing. And as I was doing it, I was realizing that there were so many other women when I was attending this conference, or just as I started doing research, that we're dealing with these same issues. And a lot of times we suppress it, or we don't want to talk about it because maybe in our society it's become a lot normal, especially in the neighborhood where I grew up. I can just remember when I was young, how many of my friends were in a single family household. So it was normal almost for the father figure not to be there. Or if there was one in the household, I had one friend, her parents were married, but I would feel weird. I felt weird whenever I went over to her house, like with his presence just being there, like I wasn't myself. I would be like really quiet, like this really like shy girl, because I wasn't used to that, like other people having male figures in the house. It was different. Or, like I say, sometimes we're raised, maybe the father is in a home, but he's emotionally unavailable because his role was more so go to work, come home, provide, take care of the house, but there wasn't that emotional connection there. Those were some of the things you went to, like I said, from your mother, not necessarily from your father. Okay. And it's definitely needed. So again, the first step to transformation is tell the truth to ourselves about ourselves. And that's where the transformation really begins. Like, you have to tell yourself the truth. Okay, regardless, like I said, what anybody else thinks, your healing, those different things, it's for you. So that's the first step to transformation, telling yourself the truth. And the last topic is about how to rewrite a new narrative for your life so that you can unleash your best life, right? Because it's definitely possible. Success, prosperity, love, all those different things are definitely possible, but there's that healing that has to take place so you can remove those limiting beliefs. So you're not sabotaging your own success or sabotaging your relationships, your money, all those different things. So talking about a brand new me and a brand new identity. Okay. So like I say, when we release those old limiting self-images of who we see ourselves as and believe that we are, we can begin to see ourselves as who we really are. And that's loved, that we are lovable, and we can automatically become that person. So with the new and authentic self-image of a person who is loved and lovable, you no longer search for love and validation outside of yourself. This is when the shift happens and we automatically are able to create anything that we want automatically. The truth of the matter is, some fathers don't know how to love their children. Many do abandon, use or abuse or even manipulate their kids. And there's nothing that anyone can do or change what has happened in the past. You can't change who your father is or any of that. That's just who they are, right? Because a person can only give you what it is that they have. But we can change how so many other millions of women and girls feel inside and how they respond to this behavior, to that uncaring behavior of their fathers. We can also decrease, the many social ills or those symptoms, statistics that they put out there that, fatherless girls are become promiscuous, teen moms at an early age, don't have healthy relationships, all those different things. We can decrease that by providing hope, by providing information, transformation through this journey to being processed. Okay, so the solution is, yes, thank you, Deborah. And it's definitely, like I said, being a teen mom, this is one of the ones that's definitely important to me. And then also because there's so many fatherless women that are raising fatherless daughters. So again, so when we release, like I said, those old limiting beliefs, we can become that person. And that's when the solution, takes place. And that begins our journey to being processed, which rests on 3 pillars framed around the unique fatherless daughters. So we talk about helping them to redefine who they are beyond their fatherlessness. reclaim their worth and actualize their power of self-love, and rewrite a new narrative for their lives and create a clear vision for what their future looks like. So there had to be a process that would elevate the awareness of the negative impact of the fatherless has on a female's life. And it has to be result driven, sustainable solutions, where the strategies that move them from where they are beyond their daddy wounds and create a clear vision. And really just letting our girls and letting women know that, hey, regardless if your father was in the picture or not, you are not broken, you're not damaged, but simply wounded, healing that fatherless wound. So pretty much what's next is, I was doing a group coaching program, and as I'm getting ready to step out, I want to be able to do more live events. But I'm also, like I said, I've met so many women online and just having conversations and stuff where I decided to make this an online program, because what I also realized too, that there's still so much shame around this topic. There's so many women who are afraid to have those conversations about their father not being there, not wanting to deal with it. So I wanted to create an online course, that's what we call it, an online course, so that someone could still get this information that I would present at a live event where they'd be able to do it at home, self-paced. So this is for the woman who is ready to heal their daddy wounds through the power of love, acceptance, and forgiveness. Identify your core daddy issues, those wounds, and release any breakthrough or any barrier that's keeping them stuck. And like I said, learning how to redefine who they are, reclaim their value, their worth, and write a new story for their life. So here's what you get for those of you who do, sign up and join this Fatherless Daughter Breakthrough Program. It's a 4-part home study program. Again, like I said, it's result-based, and it's for women to begin to heal their daddy wounds. And it's also going to come along with, a 30-minute private coaching session. And those are for the first 5 people who do jump on board with me. And of course, access to a secret Facebook group. So if you're in my Facebook group, I had a Facebook group where, I'd switched the names and I was going to call it, the Fatherless Women Entrepreneurs, because that's who I work with. I work with a lot of fatherless women, as well as there are entrepreneurs. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, but as I started doing my surveys, I started realizing how many of them were actually fatherless. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to combine my passion and do them both. But I realized too, because I'm in other fatherless groups, that sometimes, you need a safe place to be able to share or, be able to, talk to people. So I wanted to create a secret group that can't be found, or a group where people can't see who's necessarily in it, because maybe you don't want people in your business. And I totally get that. And so I created a separate group now for my fatherless women. And also we'll have a live Q&A call once a month. And so those of you who are interested in learning more about this fatherless coaching program, you can visit my website, LaKeishaHankins.com, click on Fatherless Coaching, and it's available for only $47. So it's definitely a great, I wanted to see if I was trying to make sure my offers are showing. Okay, so, okay, cool. So I hope you guys can see that on my screen. Yes, Deborah, and that was me. I never thought about being a fatherless daughter myself, like I said, until I attended an event, because, like I said, my biological father had been in and out the picture, and I was raised by my stepfather, who I call dad, and he's never once treated me like I wasn't anything but his flesh and blood. So, so again, when I came out and said I was going to do this, of course, my stepdad, my dad, was the first one to call me and was like, "What are you talking about? You are not a fatherless daughter." And I'm like, Dad, I am. And there's some emotions and stuff that I had suppressed for so many years, because I didn't want to hurt you, or I didn't want to hurt my mom. but there was, there was something missing, still. And regardless of how much he loved me and how much he provided for me and how much my mom and him provided, protection or care for me, there was still something that was missing. And I ended up being rebellious and all these different things because I didn't know how to express those emotions because we didn't have those type of conversations in my house. My mom was very strict. You weren't allowed to have feelings, So for me, it was just a matter of being able to really get all that out, and journaling has been just so freeing for me. And also for those of you, I'm excited because on June 17th, for those of you who are following me, I'm doing a collaboration with my mentor. So we have a book coming out on June 17th, The Making of a Fatherless Daughter, where 9 women, I think there's a total of 9 of us, who have come together to share our story and how we were able to deal with our fatherless wounds, how we were able to heal them, what the process is that we went through, and all those different things, alongside of taking this Fatherless Daughter Breakthrough Program. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be online for a few more minutes to answer those questions. And, again, I just thank you guys for really just allowing me in your space. And I want to make sure I did go through all the slides. So again, if you have any questions, you can place them down there for information on the program. Again, you can look at that on my slide. And just to recap, it's a 4-part home study program. It's results driven, to be able to really just to help other fatherless women and daughters heal their daddy wounds. And I'm offering a 30-minute coaching session for the first 5 people who do jump on board. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do it for everyone. So I did want to, because of, the price point, honestly, for the amount of the value that it is, it's only $47, but it's definitely worth way more than that. It's transformational. And I priced it at this point because, after speaking with my mentor, there's a lot of awareness and education that needs to be done around the topic. And so many women, like I said, don't even realize that they're fatherless or how it could be impacting or showing up in their life. Right. So for me, it wasn't necessarily about the money. It's more so about getting the information to people so they can begin this journey to healing, this journey to, loving themselves, acceptance, and even, forgiveness, or even possibly, reconnecting or having a relationship with their father. So I wanted to keep it to a point where it was affordable and to be able to do live events, especially for, teen girls and, women as well, because a lot of us are raising fatherless daughters. Sometimes it's a generational, it repeats generation after generation. Okay, so that is it. That's all I have. I'm going to give it one more minute and I'm going to, sign off. And again, I just want to thank you guys all for whether you're catching, I got emails, several of you are catching the replay, whether you are catching the replay or you are watching this live. Thank you again for allowing me in your space. And if you didn't, you want to make sure you also download the worksheet that I sent out or that I posted in the group. Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate you. Download the worksheet that I posted in the group. It's one of those ones that you can use to help you to begin this journey of, healing and stuff, by asking you those important questions, like what are your unmet daddy needs? How did it make you feel? What do you wish your father knew about you that he didn't? And again, what would you like to get out of the program so you can continue your process of healing? So, and that's how the healing begins to take place, when you begin to acknowledge it and address it. And you allow those feelings to come up. They have to come up so they can come out. And it's a process. It's not easy, but it's definitely necessary. So that said, I'm excited. Thank you guys so much for joining me, like I said, live, or rather if you're catching the replay. And if you have any questions, you definitely can shoot me an inbox. Thank you, Lynetta. Glad you were able to jump on. shoot me a message on Facebook if you have any questions. I'll definitely be sending out the replay to this tomorrow with more information on how you can get access to the Fatherless Daughter Breakthrough Program. Again, thank you so much for allowing me in your space, and you guys have an amazing evening.